Which book do I read next? That is a question that you can think about for years if you're not careful. At this time, there's never been more books to choose from, and it's never been easier to get your hands on a book. So when it comes to deciding which book to read next, that presents a problem. We have a quantity problem and an access problem. So how do we make it easier to choose the next book we're going to read and the right book? Today, I want to share with you 6 tips to help you spend less time looking and more time reading the right books. And stay tuned till the end because I have one final thought that I think will change your whole perspective on which book should I read next. Now, before we dive in, I have a free gift for you for taking your time to watch this video. This is my free guide on how to take book notes and then how to capture them and put them into your second brain. This step-by-step guide will walk you through an intentional note-taking process to ensure that what you capture really resonates with you and fits inside of your second brain. And by the end of this guide, you will have a simple system for highlighting books, a mindful approach to adding content to your second brain, a process for creating building blocks of knowledge, and then also a simple tip for making more connections in your second brain. The link to the free guide is in the description below. All right, so you likely have maybe a note or maybe a notebook or maybe it's an Amazon wish list. You have some sort of way of collecting books that you want to read. And you could start there, and it would be better than Googling, popular books in 2023 or whatever year it is that you're watching this video, because the books that are in the list that you have collected are the ones that resonate. At least they sparked some interest for you. It would be a good place to start there. But instead of going directly to the note or the notebook or the Amazon wish list, which will most likely give you decision fatigue because you probably have a lot of books that you want to read that are lined up in the queue. I think there's a better way to approach this, and that is to try to identify which direction you want to go. The direction is going to be the topic of the book. All right, some direction questions may be something like, what area in my life do I want to grow in? Okay, what topic have I really wanted to learn about? Or what in my life am I struggling with right now? So you want to start with the direction or the topic. All right, so let's dive into 3 tips for choosing a topic. Tip number 1, review your journal. So you want to look back at your journal, at your notes, because inside your journal are going to be themes of what's going on in your heart and your mind. It's going to give you an idea of what you've been thinking about, what's been weighing on your heart, what's grabbing your attention at the moment, right? And this can help you choose the direction or the topic for your next book. If you don't have a journal or you're not a journaler, then you can take a look at notes, your ideas that you've jotted down over the last 3 months or something like that to try to get a feel for what are the recurring themes. What are the things that I've been thinking about? What are the things that have interested me enough for me to jot it down? Tip number 2 is pray. I believe that God guides us not only in the big life decisions, but in the small decisions as well. Why wouldn't He? He is the creator of your heart. So if anyone's going to know what book to read next, it's going to be Him. Tip number 3, look ahead. What is coming up for you? Are you about to change careers? Are you about to have a kid? Are you about to have multiple kids? The season that's next for you may be a direction or a topic that you want to start looking into and read a book for. Now that you've chosen the topic, it's time to dive into finding the right book inside of that topic. All right, so 3 more tips for choosing the next book within the topic that you've chosen. Tip number 1, don't let Googling popular books in that topic be your first move. Okay? Instead, here is where you can go to your list that you have. Maybe it's the Amazon wish list that we talked about or the note that you have. That's when you can go dive in and figure out, okay, what books in this topic that I'm wanting to read about do I already have, because it's already sparked an interest. Check that list first. Tip number 2, use the focusing question. This comes from the book, The One Thing, and this is a wildly popular book on productivity. And one of the big principles in The One Thing is to establish a habit of asking yourself the focusing question. Okay, Greg, what is the focusing question? Here it is. What is the one thing that I can do today such that by doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So now we can take that question, tweak it just a little bit for the book that we want to read. So in this case, it would be, what is the one book I can read such that by reading it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? And to get even more specific, you can insert the topic of the book that you want to read. So it would be, what is the one marketing book that I want to read such that by reading it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? What is the one parenting book? What is the one marriage book? What is the one career book? Whatever it is that you are wanting, the direction that you're headed, you can insert that into the question to help you identify and get a focus on, if I only read one book, what would that book be? Once you filter through that question, it becomes a lot easier, in my opinion, to kind of get rid of all the other noise. Because if you only had one book to read, you're going to make that decision with a little bit more weight. Okay? Tip number 3 is download the free Kindle sample. This is especially helpful if it's an author that you've never read before. Maybe it's a topic that you are extremely interested in, but you found a new author and your friends have told you about this book that you have to read. I've run into it multiple times where I love the topic and I find a book and I'm like, okay, this is a popular book. It's got, 400,000 reviews, 5 stars, whatever. But I get the book and it's just, something's not right. And usually it's the style of the author's voice that just doesn't sit. I can't receive it. It's a great idea to first, before you buy anything, start by just downloading the Kindle sample. It's free. You can get, in my opinion, you can get enough of the book to understand, okay, what's the voice of the author here? And hopefully that'll help you out in deciding what book to read. But I do have one final thought, and I believe this is going to help change your perspective. And that is, instead of looking for a book that you don't have, maybe try reading a book that you've already read. Read it again. I would like to read this quote from Charles Spurgeon, and I'm going to read it word for word because it is that good. So hang in there with me while I read it. He says, "Master those books you have. Read them thoroughly. Bathe in them until they saturate you. Read and reread them. Digest them. Let them go into your very self. Peruse a good book several times and make notes and analysis of it. A student will find that his mental constitution is more affected by one book thoroughly mastered than by 20 books he has merely skimmed. Little learning and much pride comes from the hasty reading. Some men are disabled from thinking by their putting meditation away for the sake of much reading. And reading, let your motto be much, not many." Now, there are a lot of gold nuggets in that little passage right there. But the one that stands out to me in this moment is that some men are disabled from thinking by their putting meditation away for the sake of much reading. We are in a culture of more. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we have access to tons of books. There are books being released every single day. And that's a good thing, right? I love books. But just because there's so many books doesn't mean that we have to read all of them. I mean, the whole goal of reading specifically a nonfiction book is to expand your thinking, is to grow in knowledge. We're snacking on knowledge and we're always hungry for more because we've not had a decent meal of a book. We've not slowed down enough to say, what is this book actually saying? What can I get from this book? So maybe instead of going for the new book, try rereading a book that you already have. I can think of a few right now, but if you can think of one, drop in the comment below the title of the book that you are going to reread. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Don't forget to grab the free guide on how to take book notes and capture them into your second brain. The link is in the description below.